Okay, so we've got the footage from the last section. This is the last tutorial I'm going to do now. So we want to go about despilling this footage. So in our mask and key footage composition, we want to be done with that. So let's take this down, drag this composition down, and create a new one out of it, and we'll call this final adjustments or something. Yeah, that should be fine. So in this composition, all we're going to be doing is despilling the footage, getting rid of this green hue. If we want to get rid of the green hue, the effect you're going to want to use is hue and saturation, which is in the color correction. Or you can go to effect, just click this, go to effect, color correction, hue and saturation, and now we've got it here. Now you can the channel control section, you've got the master, so you've got all colors you're controlling, so you can saturate and desaturate, and then you can do lightness and darkness, but we want to zero these out. We don't want to do that, so we want to do it just to the greens. So see, now it's targeting just those green pixels by here, and you can saturate them and desaturate them, and that's what we're going to want to do. So we want to desaturate those green pixels, and you can see it fixes that hair and fixes that coat. And you can, I don't normally do the lightness, maybe, but you can see it's not doing all of the legs. So if we pull these little bits out by here, you can see it starts sort of desaturating the greens in the legs, and all of a sudden, turn this on and off, you're doing the color correction yourself, and you're getting a lot better. Now you can modify this however you want. You can add, go into the, well, I wouldn't go into anything else but the greens, but I'd spend more time, if I were you, doing it and finessing it and getting it nice, just seeing what's that perfect balance. If she was going into a jungle environment where there's a lot of green as well, it's not, you would expect to see a bit of green on her, but so in this final adjustment layer, so far I have despilled the footage, and now I'm going to put her into some sort of background. So I'm going to pause the video while I find a suitable image for that background, and I'll join you in a sec. Okay, so you join me back in After Effects. I've found my I found the footage I want to use. Now, right now, when you downloaded this image sequence from HollywoodCameraWork.com, great website by the way, it didn't download it in 1920 by 1080, which is full HD, and that's what we want to work in. So to do that, to work in that workspace, what we're going to do is create a new composition, and we're going to want it 1920 by 1080. And the preset you'll want to use to get those is HD TV 1080 25. Okay, that's the one you're going to want to use, and duration 20 seconds is fine. This is about 9, so let's just make that 10 seconds, just so we've got a little bit more. And click OK. So we've got this, and final adjustments was the last thing we did, so we'll drag that in, and we've got her in there, and I'll also drag in this red ballroom image as well and put that in the background, and I'll scale this up. I wouldn't normally scale up, but just for argument's sake for this tutorial, just to show you what I'm on about. And the perspective doesn't fit, it's not the best image, but it kind of is showing what it is. So we want to do we want to make her look as if she's fitting in there. So I'm going to cover advanced compositing in a few weeks, but in order for all we've only covered curves and sort of color adjustments so far. So all I'm going to do is cover that today, but we will be looking at more advanced stuff, adding grain, advanced color correction by channel, and all this. We will be covering that, but not in today's session. So let's click and drag our curves onto this final adjustments, which is her. So if it makes it easier, you can just rename it within the timeline and call it girl key. Okay, just so we know what's going on. Now, I've been through curves before. Currently we're in RGB, so when we click and drag in here, we're modifying the red, green, and blues. Okay, and obviously if we brighten this, we can see, or darken, we can see that she's obviously been lit from the right side, camera right, so light's been shining in this direction, because this half of her is in sort of shadow. We can see that when we're changing this. So that's why it's important that you nail your lighting, because if we knew we were putting her in this scene, we could nail that lighting in studio, but obviously this is just footage I got from the net. So, realistically, I want to start bringing in some warmth to her, because she's in a warm environment. There's, you know, some reds in there, so I want to start maybe increasing the reds on her, making her a bit warmer so she fits in there a bit more. Let's have a look at the highlights and the shadows. No, that's too much. Okay, already there's a little very why is it not doing that? Oh, I think my After Effects is frozen. I should save. There you go. So you can see when we turn that on and off, you can see the adjustments we're already making. Now I'm going to Control S and save, just so I've got that. And I think I may add a bit of contrast into her, so I'll come back into the RGB and bring down the shadows just slightly, and then increase the highlights just a touch, giving it that nice curve. And let's bring perhaps some yellows into her, so let's decrease the blue. No, I don't think so actually. Let's leave it there for argument's sake. And because all I've shown you up to now is curves, and you can see turning this on and off, it already makes a big adjustment, especially on her thighs and on her calves. Her legs is making a nice adjustment, and you can see it more clearly in the coat, but it really sort of fits her legs in there a lot better. So you know, that's the way you could go about doing some basic color correction to get it to fit in there. And the last thing I'm going to do is show you how to do a light wrap, and that's quite a nice one. It's an extra way of making her fit in the scene. So this one's a little bit complex, but please follow along because it's really important. So right now we've got Comp 1, which is where we've combined the ballroom image, and it doesn't look like a ballroom to be honest, but and where we've combined the two. Okay, so what I'm going to do is rename this to final _comp. Okay, there. Now what I want to do is I want a copy of this final to make my to make the light wrap out of, and a light wrap is basically making the edges sort of bleed over into her. If I was standing on a beach with sun blazing in the background, maybe it's a low sun as well, you'd expect the light to kind of leak around me, so we're going to do that. So first of all I'm going to select Final Comp, and I'm going to hit Control and D, and that duplicates it. So I've got Final Comp and Final Comp 2. Okay, now I'll double click Final Comp 2 to open it, and it's exactly the same as Final Comp. There is no difference, but that's where we're going to make the difference next. Now if you can't see, I'm in Final Comp 2, remember, let's quickly rename this to Light Composition. I can see this mode, and it gives me all of these. You may notice them from Photoshop. If you can't see them, click this toggle switches button, and it goes between these switches and these modes. Now what you're going to want to do is get your girl key and change her to Stencil Alpha. No, I think Stencil Alpha is the wrong one. I think it's going to be Silhouette Alpha, but let's just wait for this to, and we'll see. I think it is the wrong one, but let's have a quick look. Come on, load. Yeah, so that's the wrong one. We need to go Silhouette Alpha, okay? And what that's done is it's punched a hole where she is, and it's given us, you know, just a silhouette of. It's taken her alpha channel and creating a silhouette in this background, okay? So that's good. What we want to do next is create a new adjustment layer. So go Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and we've got that in there. So let's call this Fast Blur, because I know that's what I'm going to apply there. So I want to apply a blur because I want to blur these edges. Okay, so let's go Fast Blur, click and drag this onto your adjustment layer, right? And then you can increase this blur by 29. Let's just go 20 for now, and you can always come back and change this later. So what we've got, so adjustment layer off, we're creating a sort of silhouette of where that girl is. It's using her alpha channel and punching a hole in the footage, and then we're blurring that, so it kind of, if you come in close to like these edges, when you blur it, it sort of seeps over. Okay, and what we want to do now, the final thing, is get this girl key footage, duplicate it by going Control or Command D, put it on top, okay, You've got to put it on top, because this fast blur affects everything below it. And then you change this to stencil alpha, okay? And now it's just using her alpha channel and keeping everything that's inside. So it's doing the reverse of last time. And so where this sort of blurred bit is seeping over, it's keeping that in there. So I'm going to turn this fast blur down to about 10. So, you know, we just got, you know, little bits seeping over, okay? So, let's turn these top two off. You've got where you're punching a hole, you're blurring it, and then you're keeping, where you punched that original hole, you're keeping everything as sort of bled over into that line, okay? Now, if I go back to my final comp, go to project and drag in light wrap and put it on top of her, you can see, let's go in, you can see what's seeping around, the white's there, you can see what's seeping around her hair. So when I turn this on and off, you can see where the light is sort of bleeding around onto her, but that's too strong, way too strong for me. So turn it down to, let's say, 50. It's supposed to be very subtle, this is. So now turning it on and off, you can see it's just bleeding around. That may be too much still. Let's go 40. And you can see it's giving it a very, very subtle, so these strong whites in the background, giving it a very, very subtle thing with there. Now the last thing I'll do is I want to do a bit more colour correction to her. You can see these whites in the background. That's the true white, and she's also got true white. She's wearing white coat, so we want to match these whites a little bit more. Okay, so let's come back to the girl key footage. We're in final comp, and let's get a levels. Okay, click and drag this onto the footage, or just down by here. And I want to get the whitest bit of my coat, which is probably just in by here, match it to the whitest bit of this background. Okay, so let's go input white. That's too much. Let's go just like maybe 202, just like that, and it's just matching that. Now I'm going to look at the darkest part of her, which is probably her hair, and I want to match it to the darkest part of the background, which is probably in by here somewhere. I think it could go a little darker. Okay, so let's input black, push it up a touch to +5, and it makes her sit better. So if we turn that on and off, you can see she's in there a lot better. And I'll be going over black and white point in a few weeks, but that's just add that in there and that would be good. So if we were to play this footage through, the one problem we've got is the footage of her moving, okay, but the footage of the background isn't. Now that's fine, because all we're doing here is keying. We haven't actually done tracking or anything like that yet. Realistically, we would track this background to move with her, but we haven't done that yet. All we're trying to do in here is demonstrate that you can pull a key. So I'm going to leave it. We've gone over quite a lot in these 3 videos. We've gone over prepping our footage. We've gone over using key light and manipulating. We've gone over despilling footage, compositing, and applying a light wrap as well. Now in the next few weeks we're going to get into some advanced keying, we're going to do some advanced compositing, and we're also going to do some tracking. So those 3 videos should suffice for this stage. So yep, catch you next time. Cheers for watching.